These things were in the news, just to kind of get you up to date. You're going to be sad if you're a turkey. If you love the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Day Parade, they're going woke. This year, a main theme will be gender nonconformity. That will be all through the parade. I don't know what that means. I don't know what they're going to do to the floats. It means don't watch it, I suppose, but I'll let you decide. But I thought the family-friendly parade is no longer family-friendly. Also, UK National Lottery awarded $400,000 to the Alphabet Group designed to move children away from their Christian faith. That's going on in our brothers and sisters in Britain. Another headline this week, parents are filing discrimination lawsuits against California schools. They're banning faith-based curriculum in our schools. Our friend Gavin is all behind that, and he is one of the Luciferians that we'll be talking about here in a moment. Another teacher, I was a danger. A teacher got fired for talking to students about biblical sexuality, even when the students asked. So that's coming to a school near you. Depraved professor says we need a mass movement for kids' right to work in the sex industry. The pedophilias want their time. Sickening. Again, this is right here. Kids are right in the middle of the battle for whatever reason. So we got to protect our kids. And then raising your child now could require a license from the government. There's a radical professor out there that feels like parents should have to be screened and licensed before your children can be born, for they will allow you to raise your biological children. This is how crazy it's getting. And I can't even make this up. That's why I have to show you the headlines, because you think, oh, he's a nut.
I was going to say, they're normalizing it so that when all this pedophilia stuff comes out, it's like...
Yeah, because it's coming. A lot of pedophiles out there in the secular world. And again here, Democrats are blasting the new House Speaker. Why are they blasting him? Because he has a biblical worldview. What a concept, right? We need to be praying for this man every day, along with president, the real president. I do pray for the other president or resident to find Jesus, but that's where I stop. I don't want him to be successful. He's already ruined enough stuff. But these guys, I think when all this stuff comes out, you notice all the pedophilia stuff in the news, all the attacks on kids. This is another thing I was telling Richard and Marion. The schools in Minnesota have just passed a law that will require kindergartners to do certain things. Now, I've got them in my notes. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they're putting it into kindergarten, first grade. They have to be able to share woke stuff as a part of the curriculum. And you're gonna flip. And because they have grandkids, it could be, they're about 3 years from being in school up in Minnesota. So we got grandkids that will be affected by that. So anyway, so that's kind of just a couple of the headlines. There's probably been a lot more. I do this early in the week, so there's probably some other crazy news since then. But this morning, what we're going to do is we get into, this is our segment, Biblical Worldview. And again, we sift the issues of today's culture through God's word. I want us to always keep in mind that the theme of which we talk through these things is remembering what Jesus said to the disciples. And in talking to them, he's talking to us. There's going to be wars and rumors of wars, but the end is not yet. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. There's going to be wars. There's going to be some stuff that may take us to the edge, I believe, of that. I think we're seeing Psalm 83 being, as we've talked about over the last several weeks, I think that's coming to fruition, which will then lead to the battle over in Iran. Israel could end up attacking Iran. The Bible says, remember we read that, Elam, the country of Elam is part of Iran, and Israel will wipe it out. We also know that Jeremiah warned us, or Isaiah warned us about Damascus. Damascus is going to be a divot. It's going to be glass, I think, where they drop a nuke there, and it will be uninhabitable forever, according to the scriptures. Jeremiah talked about Elam. So all these things have to happen in a certain order. Remember, God's a God of order. Things are happening as He's planned them in His Word. He's told us about them. We're one of the 2% of churches that talk about it. We're going to talk about it so that we know what's going on. Again, do not be afraid. There's going to be crazy stuff happening in our country in the next 12 months till the elections. They're going to do everything they can. Don't buy it. Don't listen to it. Just trust God. And we'll keep everybody up. We'll try to do the best we can here to keep everybody informed. But we're not going to get caught up in all the lies and the propaganda, because that's what we're going to see. A lot of propaganda. But Jesus said, and part of that is, do not be deceived. That's the bottom line. Why we're doing what we're doing is because we don't want to get into that group that is deceived. Many churches are deceived or just ignorantly sticking their heads in the sand, not wanting to discuss it. I feel bad for a lot of the people. There's churches out there, Christians, that don't know what's going on, or they're living in fear because they watch this stupid news. It's all propaganda. None of it's true. None of it's true. You got to dig. You got to go underground if you want to get truth, and stick to God's word. God's word's telling us everything that we need to know. So, with that thought in mind, I think we're at a point now where and we know this, the spirit of the Antichrist that John warned us about in 1 John. If you want to follow along, I'm reading from 1 John 4. Here's verses 1 through 3 this morning, because it's easy for us to point out, I think, those that have discernment, those that have the scales removed from our eyes, those that have the spirit of Antichrist. And again, that sounds really, really mean, right? We're not judging anyone. We're pointing out the fruit of people. There's people, who, if Jesus said, if they're not with me, they're against me. And so if they don't have the spirit of God in them, they have the spirit of the Antichrist in them. There's only two ways to go, right? There's only two roads, the wide road and the narrow. And so we want to be understanding of who these accomplices are. Satan has a lot of accomplices working for him right now in the world and in America and in the little incorporated area called the District of Columbia. And you'll be able to tell. And so this morning, we're going to look at who these willing accomplices are, and who they are, what they are, is called Luciferians. They're called Luciferians, all right? And here's what John says about these people. Dear friends, do not believe every spirit. Put the spirits to the test to see if they belong to God. How would we tell if they belong to God? Well, by their words and their actions, probably more by their actions. They can give us lip service all the time. But watch what they do. Watch how they vote. Watch who they support. Again, that's why I still battle. We were talking a little bit about this yesterday. Part of the battle, and again, this is my opinion, but I really, as a spiritual person, a spiritual leader, who I felt like God's given me discernment all my life, I've been able to call things. I mean, Kelly can tell you this, attest to this. I don't know where, other than it comes from God, that you can't vote or you can't support anyone that's a Democrat just based on the platform. Take the personalities out, the people out, the little letters out. You look as a Christian. I'm just saying as a Christian. I'm going to tell you how to vote, but I'm just saying, I don't think you can be a Christian, a follower, true follower of Jesus Christ, and be a legitimate Democrat. Follow that. Look at their ideology. They hate God. They've taken God out of their platform. Right there, so right there, here John's warning us, look, test the spirits. Do the Democrats belong to God then? Not based on their platform, not based on their action. And I'm not saying every Republican does either. There's rhinos and they're all, But just looking at the platforms themselves, you really can tell, who should I be supporting? Now, again, there's charlatans on both sides. I'm not saying that. But we need to be diligent as Christians, especially in the next year, because we can't stick our heads in the sand. We have to assume that we're going to be here another 50, 100 years. I don't believe that we will be, but we have to live as if that's the case. So then we need to take charge of the dominion that God given us over not only our church, our schools, our local communities, and their governments, and the government of our country. We need to take that back, yeah.
You said take charge. How do you take charge? That's one of the discussions we had yesterday. How do we take charge? So one of the things we talked about yesterday in our men's group was occupying, taking charge, or biding our time. Okay. So we don't want to bide our time. One of the things, some of the things we can do is one, we can get out there and vote. What did you say yesterday? Like 48% or something of Christians
Don't vote.
we have to vote. When Randy says, take a look at their platform, okay, then you have to go out and share it to other people, even if it's just your family members. Say, hey, I know you're a Democrat, but look what you're voting for.
Yeah.
Okay? I know you don't like any of this stuff, but yet you go ahead and you vote for it. You have to talk to these people about it. And the other thing we need to do is pray. Okay? Just like you mentioned about the Speaker of the House. We should all be praying for this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Night and day.
This is a God thing.
Yeah.
I really believe it. To have that? Yeah, Ann.
So, how do we fight the fraud and the cheating and all that? I mean, we can all go vote, but then they cheat. So how in the world do we fight that? And then one other thing about the speaker, I've been listening to this guy online, and he's like, how do we know he's a godly man? It's because the media is telling us he's a godly man. He looks like he's doing these things, but this guy's done a deep dive. He said, take another look. Go do your deep dive and see really who this man is, the speaker. Because there's a lot. They are controlled by the Luciferians, and that he was saying, and I can never repeat things very well, but he was saying they have a way, even if a person is good, they have a way of getting to them by threatening their families.
Right.
And their children and stuff, and all of a sudden these people that we thought were so wonderful all of a sudden do this turnaround. It's because they're being controlled. And he said all of government's being controlled.
Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
just saying we really have to be, this is really a spiritual battle.
It is.
More than a political battle.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, I would agree.
what do we do?
Yeah.
Is there any organization that brings awareness to churches to vote and, I don't know.
Charlie Kirk's group.
He's more like,
Elevate, Inspire. Yeah, I mean, they're about what we're about. And we're about kind of what they're about for sure. But they'll bring them in and talk to them. But again, Ann's right. I mean, we can hear what they say, and we want to believe that God has a hand in all of it. There's no question. I think where we can discern is by their actions. He can say, if you went into the House of Representatives today and Congress and said, hey, how many of you are Christians? Every hand would go up. I would bet. But you know them by their fruit. So John's saying here, we need to test the spirit. I think we can see who belongs to God by their decisions. What are their actions? Right? Faith without works is worthless. And so, but they can still lie, I get that. But if they're blackmailed, yeah.
That's what he said. This guy was saying, he said, right now, don't pay attention. So this guy came out of nowhere, kind of like Obama came out of nowhere. So
Right.
he said, go back and see what he has supported. And I believe he said that, all this stuff that he's given to the WEF and all that.
Okay. Yeah. And again, and that's a toughie. And maybe they've changed. That's all we can hope. That once they got and figured out, because I bet they're all, as soon as you're a freshman in Congress, you're invited or you're introduced to the WEF, or you're invited to the island, or you know what I mean. They love to get people blackmailed as soon as they can, and so I know, and I think of the Christians. That's why while, again, he's professing to be a Christian. I take him at his word at this point. Like Ann said, we got to keep watching, do our homework, watch his actions, and is he a patriot? And there may be patriots who are doing patriotic things that aren't Christians. We need to support them too and hope that they find Christ. I mean, ultimately, that's what we want. But I think we have to, voting for sure, and the more that we vote, if the Christian community as a whole voted, the cheating wouldn't matter because we would outnumber them. 97%, if we voted, even in the last election, 2020, the Christians didn't vote. I'll bet you anything. I'm trying to find the statistics in Ohio. The reason why, we talked to my sister yesterday. Here's what they did. Ohio's not a baby killing state, blue state. But what they did was they put it on there, abortion all or nothing. They wrote it in such a way, this is how demonic the Democrats are and those politicians that wrote this. They put in there, you can't, abortion, period. So no incest, no rape, and no life of the mother. So there could have been a bunch of Christians in there voting for this because of that reason, because they word it such a way. That's going to be the big kicker next year. The Democrats, they don't have anything else to go on except they can get people fired up about killing babies and the right for your women's health. It's not women's health, it's murder. We all know that. So we've got to figure out a way to communicate other things that are way more important. I mean, abortion, we want to stop that. That's not an issue. But we've got to figure out but I think voting, we got to make sure that all of our Christian family, we got to get out and vote the platform that best fits our biblical worldview. Because we can overwhelm the system if 90% of Christians would vote. It was way less than that last time. Look at the statistics, and it's like sick. Do I think there's other things in place that are going to keep that from happening? I hope. I think so. They had cheating again. Yep, they're still using the old system. There's something going to happen. They're going to try to, I think, they're going to try to postpone the election because they know they can't win. So when they do that, the military, by law, can step in. Oh, we just happen to have all the ballots printed. We on paper. And we also have all the books. We have copies of all the voting registers. And so we're going to have a one-day election. So be ready for this to happen. That's all legal. I mean,
I get it.
yeah. I don't know. Well, if they want to vote, but if the military says, hey, this is it. This is when you vote. This is the day. It's going to, and we can get it back to election day. What do we need election month? No. That's how cheating happens. I think people are fed up. I think people, 67% of the people right now in America believe there was cheating in the last 3 elections. So they're waking up. Right. So we've got to get rid of the electronics. We've got to do all those things. Yeah. There was cheating. There was. It wasn't. Yeah. They cheated last week in Pennsylvania. There was cheating there. They caught them. There was look at these judges on the East Coast. There was cheating in Ohio, but people are seeing it and they're watching. I know it's very frustrating to us. They're documenting. Remember, Space Force is documenting all of this.
What about 2,000 mules and the video credits and analysis?
Trump's going to be presenting all of this in his case to the courts coming up next month, or in, when is it, March? January or March. One of the 2 court cases. These indictments are on. See, now you see what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the cameras out of the courtroom. Because they wanted him in. Now all of a sudden they want him out. And he's saying, no. We want the cameras in the courtroom. So, it's a spiritual battle, and we've got to continue to pray.
They saw mules in 2 of those New England states, and they're like all appalled.
Yeah, so they saw it.
I mean, 2,000 mules was obviously before all of that,
So people are watching for that. We need to watch that too. My neighbor signed up to be a poll watcher or something yesterday. She in Littlefields, came over. She was over at Katie, and we signed for her and said, yeah, you can, she thinks like we do. She may eventually visit with us. She's talked about coming to church. I think they go to, where do they go? Out to Faith Center. Clear out by the airport, way on the other side of town. Faith Center, remember Faith Center, the big church out there? The pastors were corrupt a couple years, it's been several years ago. There was a big split, it was a mess. They were building that big building and they quit right in the middle. Well, their accountant lived right behind me, our church, when we were in McChesney Park, and he came over and he said, yeah, I'd left. It was crooked and a mess. But they're starting to grow. We had some friends that went there. But anyway, I think my neighbors go there. But they said, it's such a long drive and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so let's keep moving. We know the bottom line is vote. We got to vote no matter what. Even though we're frustrated, we think watch it. When your ballot goes in, make sure it gets counted. Even if, it's getting flipped somewhere. I don't know. We just got to vote. So anyway, let's go back to John. Many false prophets have gone out into the world. They're out there. How can you recognize the Spirit of God? Again, by the fruit. Every spirit that agrees that Jesus Christ came in a human body belongs to God, John says. But every spirit that doesn't agree with this does not belong to God. And it is the spirit of the great enemy of Christ. You have heard that the enemy is coming, but even now he is already in the world. All right, this was, first century. John knows it's here, very much in our face. All right, in the name of these people, and I wanted to understand who these elites are. You hear the word elite a lot, and these elites are part of a group called the Luciferians. And so I thought it'd be nice for you to understand what a Luciferian is. This is their wonderful symbol. You've probably seen this. But a Luciferianism it's not a religion. Okay? It's not a religion, but it's rather a belief system. And when you believe a certain way, you do certain things. We believe that Christ is the Son of God, and he died and was buried and rose again, and we live our lives based on that biblical worldview. Well, they have kind of a biblical worldview. It's wrong, but this is a belief system that admires and venerates the characteristics and personality traits exhibited by Lucifer, okay, as represented in the literature and various books of the Hebrew Bible. So it sounds biblical. Who's Lucifer? Satan. But before he was Satan, he was Lucifer, the angel of light, the morning star. He was the most beautiful and the most powerful of all the angels. And so they feel like they can worship that side of Satan and it's okay. And so that's what Luciferianism is. Well, and Isaiah describes him. We've read it. Well, yeah, but yeah, Satan is Satan. And Lucifer was a rebellious angel from the beginning. He wanted to be God. That's what Luciferians want to be. They see themselves in this high. It's why they're called elites. They think they're elite. They think they're better than us. They sacrifice children. They do all kinds of evil things. But they're not Satanists in that sense. Satanists are a different group. They're all worshiping the same entity, but here's what Luciferian is. It gets confused with Satanism because Satan, we know, is defined as the fallen Lucifer. All right? But in reality, Luciferians, they do not worship Satan in any way, but instead they model themselves after the original Lucifer, a character of enlightenment, independence, and progressiveness. That's a dangerous word too. We have that in our churches today. Progressive Christianity. It's sifting its way through our churches, and you know what those kind of churches look like, right? And so we may do a study. I've got a whole magazine that I've got from a Christian publisher, all talking about the dangers of progressive Christianity, and we'll probably get to that one of these days. Now, the following here's the principles with which Luciferians strive to live. All right? And again, I didn't print them out for you, but I'll do my best. And again, it's just the normal, typical things you would think of. But when you understand who these people are, what they believe, it doesn't surprise you that we're seeing decisions, laws, lawlessness. The group in the incorporated DC, they don't follow the Constitution. You've probably recognized that. They're not under it. They voted themselves out from underneath the Constitution in 1871 with the Act of 1871. Read it. I started reading it this week. It's a corporate entity that operates separate from the 50 states. We're under the Constitution, they're not. So you wonder, well, why do they keep making these laws? And then the Luciferians jump on. Illinois, we're the king of unconstitutional laws, right? We're in court all the time. But they do it on purpose because they know, well, they'll just get it signed and get it into law. They call it law, and people start following it while it's going through the court system, right? And so that's what they do. So here's, they're an illuminated, they believe in an illuminated being who chooses rather than idolizes. Luciferianism is about the seeking of knowledge from both within and without, okay? So all knowledge, they look for knowledge everywhere. Many of the practitioners do recognize Lucifer as an actual being. They envision him quite differently, though, than Christians do. Obviously, we consider him Satan. They are in no way dependent on him in the same way that we are, other religious groups are to their key figures. Like our faith is in Christ and Christ alone, and that's who saves us. They don't believe that that's what Lucifer's not saving them or doing anything with it. They don't regard him like Jesus, okay? They model themselves after Lucifer purely by choice, but not out of doctrine or expectation, okay? They follow him like he's a leader because when he was the morning star, he was the elite. They think that's who they are. They're free to act and accept no consequences. They feel like they're free to act with no consequences. When you live your life that way, you do a lot of things that we would never do because we know there's consequences. They don't live that way. They believe that taboos and social expectations should not hamper one from achieving their goals. So they don't care who they step on. They don't care who they kill. They don't care who they get out of their way. They don't care if they rip you off, tear you up. They're going to get what they want to do their goals, and that's okay for the Luciferian. It's not, they don't feel guilty or anything about that.
That sounds good with Washington, D.C. inside the Beltway.
Yeah, it's in the Beltway. That's what they do. It's again, they're upset with the speaker because he's living paycheck to paycheck and not a millionaire. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Well, how'd y'all get rich? Oh, you were insider trading. You were cheating the system. So again, they don't care about law or anything else. They're going to achieve their goals no matter what they do. That's why killing somebody is no big deal, right? Society and their fellow humans may take issue with their choices, with your choices, and you are expected to accept the consequences with stoicism if you make poor decisions. They don't think that way. Luciferians' wealth is not something to be ashamed of. You're to flaunt it. You're to get it as much as you can. Look at all the Luciferians in the government. They're all, look at that Letitia, what's her name? Peekaboo. She's worth $15 million. She's making a salary like $100,000. Where'd that come from? How did the leader of Black Lives Matter get $4 million homes? They're all a part of this Luciferian group, and their goal is to get riches and money, and they don't care how they get it, and they don't care who they step on and kill to get it. That's their goal, and they're not ashamed to share. They don't even care that we know, and that they got it illegally.
Well, Congress as well, and talking about the new speaker, they were on him because he lives paycheck to paycheck.
I know, yeah. Well, join the rest of us, right? Yeah. They accept and glorify primordial carnal nature, okay, which means they're both rational and physical human beings. They accept both the rational and physical. They don't. One should not be ignored or denigrated in order to prioritize the rational side of the mind or the physical. Okay? Neither impulse should be denied as corrupt or sinful. Luciferians accept and delight in the so-called pleasures of the flesh. So pedophilia, homosexuality, all the alphabet stuff, everything goes. That's expected. It's a part of who they think they are. They deserve this, right? Cruelty. Cruelty has its place when warranted. Murder is kind of cruel. Yeah, I suppose. The Luciferians may be cruel and wrathful to those who have proven themselves worthy of being treated that way. Oh, when you call them out, well, you deserve cruelty. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to eliminate those that are calling me out. This is what they do. They think this is okay. They hold this behavior of others that dictates how you should treat them, right? We treat others as we want to be treated. They treat others as they deserve to be treated for calling them out. There's no.
The pre-dawn raids, and
Think of the pre-dawn raids and all the things. They're even going after Mike Adams now in New York, and he's one of them. They went after his.
Not woke enough.
Yeah, he's not woke enough.
I watched 2 interviews. They were Tucker interviews, but one of them was a guy who served time because he said something against Hillary.
He's 10 years.
The other guy is going for 10 years because he put on a meme, and it wasn't even his original meme. He just shared it, and
It was about Hillary, so he's
and
convicted for 10 years.
That when it's online, it's considered like in the wire, so they can try you in any court anywhere. It doesn't have to be in your local area. So they took him to, I think, Washington.
They took him to a liberal court and nailed him where their elites are. So if you put a meme out there on your TikTok, those of you who have TikTok, and you're anti-Hillary or the resident, they can pull you into D.C. and even though you committed whatever here, because it was on the open lines.
So what's the charge? Slander?
I don't know. Whatever they make up.
The charge is that since he did it in 2016 or 15, that it was.
Interference, election interference.
Not like there hasn't been any other.
We haven't seen any of that from the other side, though.
Yeah.
But you're seeing it.
On a lighter note, rather than lose control of that,
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy out there for sure. So you want to use a pseudonym. Use a pseudonym when you're.
About this Luciferian thing, it's kind of the whole wokeness agenda, which is eking into the churches who are accepting this wokeism, which is accepting this Luciferian doctrine, ultimately, in disguise.
Yeah.
And they you're talking about propaganda. Propaganda does have a little bit of truth in it. That's why people are like, oh.
And that's why I think Jesus is warning us
Same with this.
over and over and over and over. And here's John saying it again. Test these spirits. Do not be deceived, church. Remember, he's talking to the church. He's not talking to them out there. They are deceived. We know better. We should know better. 2% of us anyway.
But the churches
But
hear that.
it seeps into the church, and it's the progressivism. Yeah. And they think, oh, it sounds so good.
They sell it in the name of love and
Love is love. Accept tolerance. That's another one of those great words. Equity. All those things. Inclusion. We got to include everybody. No. Sorry. Was Jesus inclusive? Was Jesus tolerant? Okay. You get. Yeah, you see those ads on Jesus. Now they're making Jesus to be out progressive. Yeah, I saw a couple more newer ones. Yeah, last year, I think they came out in the Super Bowl last year. Now they're coming out even more.
just because Jesus Christ was a friend of sinners does not mean
Exactly. I think it was go and sin no more. Yeah. It's just.
goes to that. They go all the way. They just keep putting, like you said just a little bit ago, they don't get reprimanded for anything, so they just keep going and going, whether it's breaking store windows or stealing.
Yeah, that's part of the deal. Well, they're being paid to do that. There was a guy the other day telling us, he goes, I get paid to go out and do this. Somebody, I don't know who's telling me. Was it me telling me? Somebody was telling me that a Soros person, he said, they interviewed a guy out on the street. He said, I just get a check. I don't agree with any of this stuff. I'm just doing it for the money. Somebody's paying me, and it's coming from Soros, and it's underground money, and they're going out and causing all this trouble. And we're going to see more of it coming, so be prepared for that. But part of the Luciferian movement too is they're not trying to convert people. Conversion is not one of their goals. Luciferian considers himself a member of an elite group of self-determined people, and they have no interest in converting others. They're not interested in converting us. They're interested in ruling over us. They want a prison planet is what they're looking to put together, where they rule, and none of the rules matter to them, but only to us. You know, and it's coming. I believe we're not going to be here when it hits that point. But again, Luciferians, they see no value in large numbers of like-minded believers who have less than full dedication. The Luciferian path is one that people seek out through self-determination and not one that seeks followers. So these guys are going, if they want to move up in government, or if they want to move up in the world leadership role, they've got to join. They've got to strive after this Luciferian stuff to be a part of the elite. This is an interesting thing. Luciferians, they respect the people of the Abrahamic faith. They respect us. They respect the Muslims, the Jews. They respect their beliefs, even though they disagree with them. But they still respect them, which, seems odd by some of the things they do. Again, while Luciferians have nothing against Christians, Jews, Muslims on a personal level, they disagree with what they see as subservience to a demanding and arbitrary God as practiced by those faith systems. They don't want any God over them. They don't want any authority over them. They are their own authority. They're their own God. They do what they want to who they want, and it doesn't matter. It's okay. Why do you think the martyrs, the Muslims, do what they do? Islam believes there's no such thing as sin. And remember, they don't believe there's a hell. So there's no consequence. So the only thing that they have coming to them is 72 virgins. I don't know what the women get. Nothing. The men, if they martyr themselves, the more infidels that they kill, the more Christians, Jews they get rid of. They earn points, if you will, because it's a work system. They can never know they're good enough until they die and find out whether or not Muhammad decides to accept them into heaven or not. What a great concept of a religion, right? Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? But that's what they believe. Again, it's a satanic religion. Luciferians support and protect the natural world. So now you know why all this green junk that doesn't work, they're going to do it here in Rockford now. The resident was here. I didn't even know he was here. I'm thankful I didn't. And they're out there Thursday or Friday, and he was out there, we're going to have an electric car plant now here in Rockford. What a wonderful thing. And we're going to make batteries. What in the world, right? Luciferians share some beliefs of New Age philosophies in their celebration and protection of the earth and the natural world. So they're green. They're tree huggers and, all this green energy stuff. They strongly disagree, though, with some religious systems that see man's role as one which is entitled to freely use and abuse natural resources. So we shouldn't be able to use any of it. Can't have any of God's given us more oil and more energy stuff here in America than any other country in the world. And you have these Luciferians stopping it at every turn because they don't think it's right. We don't have that right. We're not allowed to use those things. That's not why they're here. Art and science are equally cherished by Luciferians. They're part of the Renaissance attitude when it comes to arts and science. Creative expression and scientific exploration and understanding are regarded as equally important to mankind as a whole. into their individual and personal development. All right, so they're into the arts and the sciences as long as it fits their philosophy of life and word. They focus on the present day. There's no future. There's no afterlife. There's no heaven or hell. So again, if you believe there's no heaven or hell, you're going to do a lot of things you wouldn't normally do. Eat, drink, and be merry. That's their life. That's the thing. And get as much money as you can. Have as much fleshly pleasure as you can. Do all those things. You know, why do you think they want children should be allowed to be in the sex field? What? Where's all that pedophilia stuff from the Luciferians, from these evil people? They do not believe in the Abrahamic religion's doctrine of the afterlife that's paid for by suffering in the present life. Instead, they believe that one should live for the present day and make the most of it here and now. Isn't that how they live? You can tell, right? Happiness today is proof that good choices have been made, and there's no expectation for suffering today, or that suffering today is necessary for happiness tomorrow. Enlightenment, then, is their ultimate goal. All knowledge is good. Ignorance, however, leads to all sorts of problems. Hatred, lack of success, inability to advance. Again, unlike other belief systems in which faith plays a primary role, Luciferians celebrate knowledge of all types as the key to their enlightenment and their happiness in life. It has nothing to do with faith, right? And so, and they talk about free will and personal responsibility. Each person is responsible for their own fate, which is determined by his or her own talents and efforts. You can see that very clearly in the elites. They'll do whatever they need to do to get what they need, what they want, and they don't care who they destroy to get it. Finding ways around life's roadblocks is expected part of life for Luciferians, and overcoming them is cause for pride and happiness. Where's the heart of pride? What is sin? So sin is their goal. That's what pride is. Pride is the root of all sin, if you ask me. They're also expected to accept any unhappiness that arrives due to the bad choices they make. Oh, that's nice. Well, it's good. They're going to need lots of pets, lots of puppies next year if things change in our country. Again, we have to strive we have to continue to live and work as if our life are going to go on for another 50 to 100 years. We can't just say, okay, well, Christ is coming next year, so I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to do. No, that's exactly what they want us to do. All right? We have to, again, do we think Jesus is going to come back before? I do. Again, we're not making predictions, but I believe, in the next 10 years. We're seeing for the first time, remember we've talked about this, all the signs of the second coming of Christ are converging all at the same time for the first time in history. That's what makes it different than it was back in the first century when Peter and Paul and all those guys thought, oh, well, Jesus is coming back next year, right? He's coming. That's not the thing. But we're starting to see it all converge at the same time in history. Knowledge is regarded as fluid, subject to revision and change, so they can change anything to say what they want it to say. That's very dangerous, right? So the Luciferian is encouraged to keep an open mind, willing to revise his or her ideas of what constitutes truth and understanding. AI is that way. There was a commercial last night. I don't know if you were asleep. Kevin McConaughey. Have you seen the Kevin McConaughey commercial? Whatever. Matthew McConaughey. He's an old man now, but
I did see that.
he was a back in the day.
Tell us about it.
Well, anyway, he's outstanding. He's outstanding in this field. Not outstanding in this field. He was outstanding. He was literally standing out in a field, and a squirrel comes running up, and he's saying in the commercial, "Who will gain control first? Will we maintain control first, or will AI?" And then they fly in on the squirrel, and it has like bionic eyes, and it's like got super whatever, and it can see him, it can speak to him if it wanted to. I mean, and it's already. That was the gist of the commercial. The point of the commercial is AI is on its way, and is it going to overtake those that created it before they get a handle on it? How many times have we been warned? Harari, who's a demonic person from Satan, has said it. The WEF has said it. We've seen it everywhere. And is it a great thing? I mean, it could be. How do you regulate it?
He looked like an AI figure.
He looked, yeah, I mean, he was like, it was just really, he almost looked robotic, but he's had so much work done in his face. But the squirrel had these bionic eyes. Watch for these commercials. They're not hiding it. They're bringing it right out. Are we going to, because we've seen the dangers of AI.
Was he in support of AI?
He didn't really say. He was just, I'm sure he is because he's Hollywood elite. He's probably a Luciferian. I Google it. I mean, I tried to find lists of people. They don't put their names out. You cannot find, you have to, you can tell, I know you can tell who they are, but I'm thinking, okay, I want to know who are the Luciferians? Who are the Luciferians in America? Who are the Luciferians in Congress? Nothing. No. I DuckDuckGo. Nothing. If there's another one out there that you can find it, I'm looking. I haven't been able to find them. And so it's out there. Again, these people are very proud. They're very powerful. They are the enemy of our souls. We have to be watching, right? Here's what the New Order says. This is Dr. Cook. I don't know if he's one of the Koch brothers. I'm not sure, maybe. But he says the New World Order under the UN, which is in process, that's the Agenda 2030. What are we, 7 years? They've just signed a 7-year peace pact, remember, for this to get into power by 2030. The UN will reduce everything to one common denominator. The system will be made up of a single currency, a single centrally financed government, a single tax system, single language, that's going to be interesting, single political system, single world court of justice, single state religion. Each person in the world, all right, which right now would include us, will have a registered number beyond your Social Security number, without which he will not be allowed to buy or sell. There will be no universal world. There will be one universal world church. The Pope has already founded it, if you didn't know that. He's contracted and signed a covenant with Islam. He's signed it with the Congregational group, the Unitarian, was it Unitarianism? The Unitarians, and the Catholic Church. They've all signed on to this covenant to form the One World Church. It's on there. They have our own website. Anyone who refuses to take part in the universal system will have no right to exist. No, there's no place for you. Luciferianism, the elites. We will run the world. You will do what we tell you, and you'll have nothing, and you'll be happy, Klaus. Luciferianism. No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation. This is David Spangler, the Director of Planetary Initiative in the United Nations. This is his office right now.
When was this? Recent?
This is recent.
This all sounds like stuff where we're not raptured up, we're going to go through it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think these are things that the system is in place or very quickly going to be, right? Again, I feel like we're not to be afraid. We are the bride of Christ. We are adorned in our gown. Why would Christ, and this is again one of the arguments people are like, oh, the church, they're going to be in the tribulation. Why would God dress us in our wedding clothes and send us into a battle? How many of you ladies, after you had your wedding dress on, went out and played some football and then said to Dad, will you walk me down the aisle now? No. So why would Jesus send us into, Paul says we are saved from, this is wrath. We're not dealing with wrath right now. We're dealing with persecution. And we're seeing this laid out. Most people think this is awesome, that have the scales on their eyes.
That is like directly out of the Bible.
This is straight out of Revelation 13. This is Revelation 12:13. And the false prophet is already in place. He lives in the Vatican. There are things buried under the Vatican that we would all probably just croak if we knew was there.
They're trying to win against God.
It's all a battle against God. And God, what does God say? Psalm 2, I'm sitting in heaven. I watch as the nations plot, and I laugh. He does. Now, again, we take it somewhat serious, and we're down here with it. But guys, our God, our Father, our Abba, is in charge. He's got this all under control. So this is what's going on out there. So we got to stop there. We'll pick it up there next week with this thing, because I want us to look at the false prophet and understand what we're looking at here. So coffee break. We'll pick it up next week here with this concept of what is the Luciferian conspiracy, because it's both historical and biblical, and we're going to look at it next week. Have some coffee.